Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Coding Adda. Aditya this side, and in this video, we are going to deep dive into what are workflows that are used in GitHub Actions, and also we will be creating our first ever GitHub action. We will be printing Hello World. Obviously, if you are a developer, you know whenever you are learning anything new, the first thing is to print Hello World to test, like, okay, this is working right. Okay, so yeah, without any further delay, let's get into the computer screen and let's start with the video. So we'll be going through the entire documentation. We will be learning this particular series with the help of the GitHub documentation. So here are workflows. What are workflows? Workflows is a configurable automated process that will run one or more jobs. They are defined by a YAML file. YAML is a way of writing workflows checked into your repository and will run when triggered by an event in your repository, or they can be triggered manually or at a defined schedule. They are defined under .github/workflows directory in a repository. A repository can have multiple workflows, each of which can perform different set of tasks, such as building a testing pull request, deploying your application every time a release is created, adding a label whenever a new issue is opened. Okay, so let's go into the workflow basics. A workflow must contain following basic component: one or more events that will be triggered, that will trigger the workflow, one or more jobs, each of which will execute on a runner machine or run a series of one or more steps. And the third thing, each step can run either a script that you define or an action which is reusable extension that can simplify your workflow. So basically here, if you see, there is an event that happens, okay, and then there is one runner, okay. This particular runner will have a job, and each job will have a series of steps. So runners can be as many runners that you want to create. It can be either self-hosted or a git hosted runner. So what we have here is we have an event that is taking place that triggers two different runners, and each runner will have different jobs. Runner 1 has job 1, where there are 4 steps that is happening. First is running an action, then script, then again action. And the runner 2 has 3 steps: running action and then 2 scripts. Now what triggers the workflows? Workflow triggers are events that can cause a workflow to run. These events can be events that occur in your workflows repository, events that can occur outside of GitHub, or trigger a repository dispatch event on GitHub. Schedule times or manual. Schedule times meaning you can set up a cron job to trigger that particular workflow. Okay. For example, you can configure your workflow to run when a push is made to the default branch of your repository, when a release is created, or when an issue is open. Now, one of the most important thing here is to understand by which key are the workflow triggered. Workflow triggers are defined with on key. Okay. So these are the following steps that occur on a workflow run. An event occurs in your repository. The event has associated commit, SHA, and a git reference. The GitHub searches for .github/workflows directory in the root repository for your workflow files that are present in the associated commit. A workflow run is triggered for any workflows that have on key values that match a triggering event. Some events also require the workflow file to be present on default branch of the repository in order to run. Okay, so this is how a workflow is created. Now let's go into understanding what is the syntax for the workflows. Okay, as I said, workflow file uses YAML syntax, and it must have either YML or YAML file extension. Now these are some of the things, or these are some of the values that are present in a given workflow. The first thing is the name. Name is the name of the workflow. GitHub displays the name of the workflow under the repository's actions tab. If you omit the name, GitHub displays the workflow file path relative to the root repository. Okay, so any workflow that you create, it should have a name by which the workflow would be called. Next is the run name. The name of the workflow is generated from the workflow. GitHub displays the workflow run name in the list of workflow runs in the repository actions tab. If it is omitted or is only white space, the run name is set to the event specific information for the workflow run. Next is one of the most important key. To automatically trigger a workflow, use an on to define which events can use the workflow to run. Okay, you can obviously see the list of available events here. We can go here to check what are the list of available events: branch protection rule, check run, check suit, create, delete, deployment. These are different events that can trigger workflow runs. you can define a single or multiple events that can trigger a single workflow or set a time schedule. Okay, so these are different ways wherein, let's say you want to use it using a single event. You want to only trigger the workflow when there is a push. If you want to go for multiple events, you can just add them in an array when there is a push or a fork happening for that repository. For example, the issue comment event has triggered created, edited, and deleted activity types. If your workflow triggers on the label event, it will run whenever the label is created, edited, or deleted. If you specify the created activity type for the label event, your workflow will run when a label is created, but not when the label is edited or deleted. Okay, there are various different filters that you can also use, that if there is a push on branches which are main and releases, then only trigger the given workflow. Okay, so there are various different kind of syntax that you can go over with, and obviously I'll ping out this particular web URL of the docs on the comment and description so that you can have understanding and you can go through these different kind of workflow syntaxes and have a better understanding. So now let's move into creating a GitHub action. Before that, the first thing that we have to do is you need a GitHub repository. Okay, I'll go here, I'll create a new repository. I'll just give the name as GitHub Actions series. Okay, and I'll just give a small description. This is a deep dive series on understanding GitHub Actions. Okay, we'll keep the visibility as public and nothing else. Okay, we'll just create a repository. Okay, now that we have created the repository, we will copy it and we'll go into VS Code. I already have a sample code set up for you right here. Okay, so before understanding this, we will just initialize the GitHub repository. So I'll just say git init, git remote add origin and the origin. Okay, and just clear this. Now, what happens over here is every time you push a code, GitHub will automatically run a small job that prints hello from coding Adda. That's GitHub Actions and Actions. Okay. So now the name that I have given here is Hello World, my first action. Okay. This will be the display name in the GitHub UI. Next, I want to push or I want to trigger that flow when there is a push, every push that is done on this particular repository, not specific to any branch, not specific to any other request. And also I can allow manual run from GitHub UI. Whenever you add this key, which is called workflow dispatch, you can actually manually run your GitHub actions by yourself from the GitHub UI. If you remove this, you would not be able to run it from the GitHub UI. What are the jobs? A workflow is made out of one or more jobs, as I said. The first job or the job ID is say hello. Okay, this is the job name that I am giving here, and it will run on Ubuntu latest. What is this? This is the self-hosted runner which is present on GitHub. It is a machine which on which this particular workflow will run, and this is the machine that GitHub provides for free. If you have a self-hosted runner setup, you can put the name of that self-hosted runner over here. What are the steps inside this particular job? Is first is to print a greeting. Say echo hello from coding Adda. Okay, the name and the run. It is a command line program that uses the operating system shell. Okay, so here you have to remember that inside the run, you can actually use the shell scripts and it will be using the shell programs using OS shell. Okay, so I printed here echo from coding Adda. Next is to show the current date. Next step is to show the current date. Next, show who triggered this. Now, there are internally API calls that we have in GitHub, which will help you to give the name. So I've just echoed it and said github.actor. So actor means it will return us who has triggered the repository or who has triggered this particular push on the repository, on which branch, ref name, and github.repository to give repository. Okay, and here we'll also run a multi-line script which will just display and say echo GitHub action is working, echo this is video 1 of the series, or let's say this is the demo 1. Okay, I will just say this is the demo one of the series. Okay, now we will just increase the size, get status, okay, get add, get commit minus m, and I'll just say hello world program for GitHub Actions. Okay, commit and get push origin master. Okay, now that we have this thing committed here, we'll just reload this, and we see there is a dot github slash workflows present here. And if you come here, you will see there is an orange or like a yellow kind of a sign that is working. That means that GitHub has automatically understood that, okay, there is a actions or workflows folder present. Let's go over to the GitHub Actions tab and understand. Okay, on the left hand side, you can see there is a hello world, my first action present, and this action is run. Now, if you go here, you will see that this is the first action, this is the first commit that has happened, this is the hash, and who has checked in the commit, on which branch, what was the time, and how much time did it take to execute. Now, if I go on these three dots, you can see I can view the workflow file and delete the workflow file. What I'll do is I'll view the workflow file by clicking on this. When I clicked on view the workflow file, I can see there is a say hello job over here. When I click on this, you can see there are a series of steps that happen. So it started from setting up the job. Okay, and let's go on to what is happening over here. So obviously the first thing it took what is the runner version. We gave Ubuntu latest. So the runner version for Ubuntu latest is 2.331.0. Then it saw what are the runner image provisioner, taking the worker ID, what is the region, what is the runner image, XYZ. Okay, and complete job name is say hello. Okay, next, as I said, there is something called print greeting. If you see here, so this is the first step that happened. The name is print a greeting, and then what did it run is run echo from coding Adda, and it said okay, echo from coding Adda. Next, what was the next step? Show the current date. So it gave here that show the current date. So it gave the current date as okay, it's Wednesday, March 14, and the time is 5:57:12 UTC, and the day, year is 2026. Okay. Next step, show who triggered this. Triggered by GitHub.actor is Yuadi29, which is my GitHub username. On which branch? The name is master branch. The name is master branch, and the repository as GitHub.repository, which is this particular repository. Okay, that's very good. And then we are running a multi-line script. Okay, this would say GitHub Actions is working. This is demo 1 of the series. And then after everything is working fine, it says, okay, the job is complete. Okay, so this is our first ever GitHub action that we triggered, wherein we got a hello world program for our project, and we understood what is a key, what are push, what is workflow dispatch, what are jobs, and how can we have different kinds of steps or different steps involved in a given job. Okay, so in this video, we got to know about what is a workflow, and we deep dived into what are the steps, what are the different kind of keys that, or what are the different kind of syntax that are used in a workflow. So let me know your comments on how did you understand this and what are the different kind of workflows that you are trying to create over into your project. In the next video, we will be understanding how we can use different kind of variables or secrets, or how we can take an input from the user when you are using a GitHub action. So if you like the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.